Okay, everybody, I think it's finally time for us to start at 7 o'clock. I call this meeting of the Devine Independent School District Board of Trustees to order at 7 o'clock p.m. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Let the record show that trustees Carrie James, Allie Buvenhausen, Henry Moreno, Chris Davis, Carl Brown, Renee Frieda, and Nancy Pepper are present. Coming to the citizens communication, we've had several people sign up. I will call your name in the order that you signed up. You will have 3 to 5 minutes to speak. Feel free to say what you need. I'm not going to cut you off unless you just go into a 20-minute tirade or something. But we want you to say what you'd like to say while you're here. First is Michelle Cashin.
Testing. Okay, well that's okay. I can talk.
Do I begin?
Anytime.
I would like to address the Devine ISD board members regarding the proposed 4-day school week. As a mother of students in Devine ISD, as well as a community member, I have several concerns with the proposed 4-day school week. My first concern is as a mother of a child with special medical and social emotional needs. As most of you know, consistency is crucial for kids with special needs. My son struggles on Mondays with the current school schedule after the change in routine of the weekend. I fear what having an even longer break in learning would do to him and other children with special needs. These children receive crucial interventions and assistance at school that cannot be offered at home. My son and other kids like him learn social skills in the school setting, and we would be taking this time away from them. I am also concerned about these children having to be in school for even longer days than they already are. My son has a brain tumor, autism, and ADHD, and he is often exhausted after a typical day of school, so making those days longer would be detrimental to his ability to stay focused and learn the material presented. The next concern is as a community member. Many families can only make ends meet in our current economic climate by having both parents working full-time jobs. While I understand that school is not a daycare, school days were aligned with a 5-day work week for a logical reason. Parents having to arrange care for their school-age children on Fridays would add stress and economic hardship in an already difficult time. Many children would end up being left home alone and or in dangerous situations. School is a safe haven for many children, and we would be taking that away from them. I would also like to bring up the question of what happens if we adopt this and find out it is not working and the students are suffering academically. What happens then? Would we even be able to go back to a regular school week at that point? I will close by saying that as a parent and community member, I am extremely disappointed by the way the 4-day week has been researched and presented. I have seen little to no research or data presented on how this is a benefit for students. The 4-day school week has not been in effect in other districts long enough to see the effect it has on student learning. As a school board that is committed to doing what is best for the students and only the students, I urge you to wait to make this decision until adequate data is available on how it affects student learning, especially elementary age students building foundational skills in math and reading. I urge you to please keep all of the students in mind when making this decision. Think about the many in our community that would be put at a disadvantage and not just of the few that might benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cashin. Next is Jennifer Tolson.
Good evening, members of the board, colleagues, and community members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight as a teacher. I'm here to advocate for this 4-day school week, a change that could have profoundly positive impact on our students, teachers, and families. I don't know why I'm nervous. I talk to kids all day long. I'm so nervous right now. First, let's talk about our students. Research and experience tell us that a quality of education matters far more than quantity. A 4-day week allows us to focus on maximizing instructional time with fewer interruptions, creating a more productive learning environment. With one extra day off, students have time to decompress, catch up on homework, and pursue extracurricular activities or passion. This reduces stress and promotes mental health, which, as we know, is critical to academic success and personal well-being. From a teacher's perspective, the benefits are equally compelling. A condensed schedule allows us to dedicate one day to lesson planning, grading, and professional development without sacrificing personal or family time. Teaching is an emotionally and intellectually demanding profession, and this balance is essential to prevent burnout. When teachers are well rested and better prepared, the quality of instruction improves, directly benefiting students. For families, the 4-day week offers flexibility. Parents can use the extra day for appointments, family activities, or quality time together. Employers increasingly recognize the value of flexible work schedules, and schools should consider this trend as well. Moreover, a 4-day week can reduce costs for districts. Fewer days in operations mean lower expenses for transportation, utilities, and maintenance, freeing up resources that are so desperately needed to reinvest in classroom supplies, technology, or other student-centered initiatives. I understand that change can be daunting, but this is an opportunity to innovate and adapt to meet the needs of our school community. By adopting a 4-day week, we create a system that prioritizes the holistic well-being of our students, supports the professional growth of teachers, and fosters stronger family connections. Thank you for considering this proposal. I encourage you to explore this change with an open mind, knowing that our shared goal is a thriving and dynamic educational environment for all. And I did gather, I spoke to some people from Bandera and from Natalia, staff and children as well from all 3 different levels, elementary, middle school, and high school. And staff says, I'm loving it. We did start in August going every Friday, but come September we've had Fridays off. We started with the Friday work day in September with a few off, but now we are off on Fridays. It took time getting used to, but now it's amazing. I get to spend time with my family. Another teacher. The 4-day week improves teacher morale. We no longer have to work on weekends during what should be our family time. Another teacher. Having Fridays off and being able to have a true weekend has been so much better for my mental health. I feel rested over, not overworked. Children. Yeah, it's a longer day. You can tell this high school kid. But you don't really realize it because once I'm home, I know I don't have loads of homework to do. I am not rushed in class either. Elementary student. I like the extra recess time at my elementary school. Another middle school students. Love having the extra day of rest and reset, and now I have perfect attendance. Another child, this is another elementary school child. I like the 4-day week, but I do feel tired because the day is longer, but I do like Fridays off. And then a high school kid, I love the 4-day week. I have a lot of time to do things that I like at home. And so I know, I really appreciate you listening to everybody tonight. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Next, Melissa Gutierrez.
Okay, I'm just getting my voice back, so it sounds really weird. Okay, my name is Melissa Gutierrez. This is my 14th year teaching in Devine. I have 2 children, one who's enrolled in DISD as a 5th grader, and one who has been homeschooled for the past 2.5 years. The research available on the 4-day week is something that I have intensively studied for both the negatives and the positive. There isn't a lack of available studies that have been conducted over the past few years. And in fact, I've looked at it, it has gone way back. It has been looked at since the 80s and before. It's just now coming in really to Texas, and it's really interesting what some other states have done. Our students from as young as pre-K 3 are exposed to various things that cause schedule changes on a weekly basis. This includes assemblies, picture days, dress-up days, bench bump testing, visitors on campus, and at times extreme behaviors. With everything mentioned, even the distracting behaviors in class, our students are able to stick to the learning routine and consistently produce quality work. In the article that was posted, there was concern that a longer school day for younger students might mean instructional time sacrifice to facilitate more athletic and nap periods. So currently, for the past few years, I took a nap whenever I was in kindergarten. A long time ago, I'm 36, but it's been quite a long time since somebody besides pre-K has taken a nap. I'm the lead pre-K teacher, and I've held that position for the past 12 years, and we've only been the ones taking a nap for a long time. Not only do we have to follow DISD's regulations and guidelines, but Head Start's guidelines. And they are very detailed and very closely monitored by several people who were just always getting those in and out checks. So we have a set time limit for naps. And even if we wanted to nap longer, it doesn't work that way with little kids. There's always a few out of 20, I have 20 in my class. There's always a few that do not go to sleep, and they can only stay quiet on a mat for so long. To address the question from the audience, in the past meeting about having options for parents. So there are 4 options, and I posted it on a Facebook post about different federal programs. But in addition to that, I was talking to a friend from Charlotte. They also have a 4-day week. In Charlotte, one of the local churches made a Friday school that they decided to have it free for their students, but it reminded me of St. Joseph's here in Devine has a 1-day-a-week homeschool co-op. My sister's actually a part of it, and it is very, very low cost, and just an idea that could be further researched to see if that's a good fit for something in our community that we could replicate. Addressing some comments, saying that, and it's a heartbreaking comment, that sometimes the only safe place for our community children is school, and that is a tough one. It goes without saying that our hearts hurt for those students who look at school as their safe haven. Those have been several of my kids. In the past, those are the kids who were stuffing their backpacks full of snacks before we go on that long break, who I'm giving them my kids' clothes that they grew out of and just putting it in that backpack. As much as we want to address every kid's need, it's hard. And at times, my family's needs weren't met whenever I wasn't working. And my husband is a police officer in San Antonio. He worked a swing shift, or he worked a third shift at night. And the typical 8 to 3 school day didn't work for us either. So we had to make the accommodations around that. This year we had drastically low numbers in kinder. It wasn't a fluke. We lost kids. Several of my kids that I had last year in pre-K to educate to schools up the road who did adopt the 4-day school week. The 4-day week has some major pros that should be considered and explored for the benefits of the students as a whole. In various studies on the topic, increased attendance have been one of the top achievements. Parents and students view schools differently with a longer weekend and are less likely to miss school for appointments. There's also a significant cost savings that DISD could see by reducing transportation and utilities. Some are saying, if it's working now, why change it? It's not working. And it's not just Devine, it's everywhere. It's stated in articles, on the news, San Antonio, Texas, around the area. Students have more now on their plates than they have ever before. So much more is demanded on them. and at times students cannot deal with the pressure appropriately. Students lack positive social skills, communication skills, conflict resolution skills. This often leads to misbehaviors in the classroom. This is happening at a much more frequent and severe rate. And this is not just in our special education rooms. This is in general education. In elementary, in our pre-K rooms, our class kids are getting exposed to all sorts of things happening to their teachers, to the other students, and it's just not the same world that we had when we were growing up. Our kids, the kids that I have this year they have stressors that we didn't have growing up. And this extra day where they can decompress, where they can have a redo and start that next week off fresh. It's a lot to have a reset. That is it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Blaine Martin.
Thank you, and you're lucky I didn't know it's 3 to 5 before we started.
Well, I won't cut you off.
I will keep talking. All right, first off, I'd like to thank you all for what you do for our community each and every night, basically, for y'all at this point, and for understanding the significance of the decision that may be made here tonight. You know, this meeting gives the community an extra opportunity to come out and voice their concerns or opinions about the very important information or topic. All of you already give hundreds of hours to our community and to our district, and you certainly didn't need another meeting away from your parents, another evening away from your kids. Sorry, I'm used to talking to class. So if I talk down to you, don't hold that against me. First off, I'd like to take this opportunity not to voice my opinion about a 4-day school week. I'm not here for that. I have an opinion, but I don't feel like I've been involved with it enough to voice that. All I want to do is just talk a little bit about some of the important factors that should be considered, not just by the board, but by our community members and everybody else when this decision is made, you know, to be thinking about that. There are many facets of this changing the school week, but in my opinion, there's 3 main factors. I actually started doing this. My daughter's school started looking into this about 3 years ago, and she recruited me to start doing data collection and stuff like that. You wouldn't believe how many DEIC meetings I've listened to on the phone. You know, we're just talking about it and stuff. First off, and the most important thing that we need to consider on this tonight is, will DISD students benefit from this change? That's the ultimate thing. Will they benefit? And you know what? Y'all have a hard time with this because the data that's out there is not real plain one way or the other. It doesn't really paint a definitive answer to that question. You know I've heard many teachers, parents, whatever, talk about time. That was one of the first things I worried about, longer school days. I still remember Brenda Gardner, when we were both principals, banging her fist on the desk when I was trying to take away her last period kindergarten specials from her. You know, said, Blaine, you don't understand. At 2:20, those kindergarten kids have had enough. They can't go anymore. They have to go to PE. But I also look at the data that's out there saying that the extra days, sometimes those kids get extra rest and they come to school more rested. So that's part of the dilemma that y'all face, is deciding on which side of that data point you want to be on. Every district has its own experiences, and that's because each one of our communities are different in that way. That fact makes your vote even more difficult because you must lean on your experience and what you know about the administration sitting back there, what you know about the teachers, what you know about the parents, and how you think they'll interact with this as it goes on. Secondly, is it the best option for our community? Right? How will our community be impacted by this? I know there have been multiple surveys circulated for public opinion. I don't know what the result of those surveys are. I could have found out if I wanted to, but I didn't do it. So that's my fault. But in any instance, those surveys do matter. They were given, they were presented, they were given, they were participated in, they do matter. The difficult part for the board is trying to decide this issue, not knowing what those community members that either chose not to answer, or didn't know about the survey, or didn't have the means to do so, what they would want, because they're still constituents. You know, so that's difficult on your part. The last point I'll make is only after the before mentioned arguments have been answered should staffing be considered. You know, we have to know for sure those first two are perfect. We do know that experienced teachers staying longer in the classroom affects my first point. They impact students better. You know, we know that having a more experienced, a better prepared teacher in the classroom presents a better rounded student in the end. So I don't think that if you think that 4-day week is going to cancel out all our staffing issues, I'm afraid for that disappointment, but I don't think that's going to change or going to help in that respect. I think all of you know or should know how much I love this district staff, and they certainly deserve everything good that you can give them. But this vote must check all the boxes positively in the first two options before we start considering the other. I also want to thank the DEIC committee. They spent many hours working on this. This 4-day school week's been whispered about or talked about even on my last term on DEIC 3 years ago. It's kind of started, you know, going, and probably before that, before I ever heard it, probably didn't have my hearing aids in. One thing that I am sure about is that once this vote becomes reality, no matter what side of this issue our opinions fall on, all of Devine will pull together to make your decision the best one possible. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Okay, Melissa Callan.
Good evening. I don't have as well prepared of a speech, but I do feel very passionately about this topic. I grew up in the community. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I have 5 of my own children that attend our schools. I have children that excel, and I have children that struggle and utilize the special education department. I have children that are biological to me and children that have been through the foster care system. It is a very precious topic for me. I feel that having a 4-day week sounds amazing, and it benefits a lot of people. But the people that it doesn't benefit, that impact is way larger than the benefit that the others receive. These children that will be home in families that cannot afford or cannot find childcare for those extra days off, those are not children that are going to be doing creative things and spending that time in a way that's benefiting them. They're not relaxing. They're not having the best of time. These children are going to be on phones, exposed to things that they should not. They're unsupervised. We have a real problem with students and young people in our communities being exposed to all kinds of things, and giving them an additional day free is not going to benefit them in that way. It's not going to help their mental health. We're going to have middle school students, young students, home alone, unattended, that maybe shouldn't because their parents have no other option. You don't have child care for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They're too old for a babysitter. They shouldn't necessarily have an extra day at home with access to all the things on the internet, with the things on their phones, and playing video games. That does not seem like a benefit to me. We can say whatever we want, how parents should be monitoring those things, but we all know the reality of that. I'm a very watchful parent, and my kids are exposed to so many things just in the few hours we do have in the evenings and the weekends. Adding more time to that is not going to be good. I don't believe that we cannot raise our children in our community to be weaker. We have to give them the tools, but by saying We don't think you can mentally handle the stress and the work of doing 5 days at school. We need the extra day for your mental health. That is allowing them to become weaker. That's not helping them become stronger. It's not giving them those tools. If we want to do that, we need to introduce other programs into our schools. How to be socially engaged with each other, how to be able to deal with your emotions. Not give them another day in homes that are experiencing abuse, that are experiencing neglect, or the parents that just can't be there because they have other obligations. We have teenagers that work after school. I have a teenager, she works 5 days a week. If her hours are cut, she's saving for college. I'm a single mom, I cannot pay for that. She is saving already for that at 16. If her hours are cut in the evenings, nobody's gonna hire a teenager to work 2 hours in the evening. That's longer school days, later work, less hours. That's not benefiting anyone. That's not teaching our students anything. We say that by having Fridays off or Mondays, it's going to reduce the amount of time students in academic activities and sports, the classes they'll be missing, but that's not true. Volleyball, basketball, tennis, they are only missing school on Fridays for these activities. They're missing other days of the week. So if those days are longer, you're missing more time in the classroom. It's not just about the football program or the things that happen on Fridays. It's about all of the programs, all of the academics. What about the students with UIL practices? How late are they going to be at school? Those are happening after school right now. Are we going to be keeping kids even longer for those activities? That's not helpful. They're not going to absorb that stuff. I think that there are so many great things that we can say about a 4-day school week. And it does benefit the people who are already in kind of an ideal situation. They can afford the extra childcare. They can afford or they can spend that time with their children. We have so many families in our community that we're not an entitled school district. We have a lot of underserved, underprivileged children that are in not ideal situations. Maybe they're not terrible, but they're still not in a situation where parents can take that day. I know after working a long day, I'm not going to be working more in the evening to have that extra day off. I don't see realistically a teacher saying, I worked a 12-hour day today. Friday is now I'm going to go in and prepare my lesson plans for the next week. I'm going to take that time to be with my family. That's not going to be time that I would be using to prepare for the next week. Most people don't do that for their jobs. I manage a staff of 75 people. When we allow those shorter work weeks, people don't get more done. They stand around, they're tired. They have more chatter at the water cooler. They're taking longer lunches. That time is not as productive. And they're not coming in on that extra day off to get things done, the things that they needed to get done. That's just human nature, and we have to be realistic about what that is. We can't be fooling ourselves thinking that if we have these longer days, these teachers are going to be coming in on Friday and taking care of the next week's work. It's just not realistic. If we're saying we're giving you a 4-day work week so you can spend time with your family, we can't have the expectation that you're going to work those longer days. If they can't already get their work done in a normal school day, the time they have after classes, they're not going to be doing that on a longer day. And they're not going to be doing it on the Friday. I can't blame them for that. I wouldn't either. But we can't be fooling ourselves that that's the kind of stuff that this would promote. I know that's not the only consideration, but we should be very realistic about what this means. The benefits for the families and the children in the community that are already in a position to enjoy that extra time is not more important than the hardship it will provide, even if it's not for a majority of the community. Our schools should be thinking about children first, and it's all children. We can't address every single specific child and make everything perfect for all of them, but we should be doing our best to serve as many as we can in the best way possible. not just providing a better environment and a better, more ideal situation for the people that are already having an easier time than maybe most, or even a smaller majority, like section of the family. The children that I have seen, and my own children that I have, and the stories that I listen to when I have to go to court and hear about what children experience when they're in these homes where they're getting abused. And I sit there all day and I listen as I wait for my children's case to come up in that CPS court. And the things that are happening to these kids, I know, I hear all the time. My aunt were teachers in our district. And the things that they would say they heard or know or reported, and nothing could still be done, we're giving these families more time for these kids to experience those things even more. If we want to say we're going to, for kids on meal plans, we'll still provide meals on Fridays for those that need it. Those aren't families that are going to bring their child up to the school to eat. Those aren't the people doing that. And we're not serving our most needy children by doing the 4-day week. Thank you for your time.
That's everyone that signed up, but I do want to give anybody the opportunity to speak that might have something they'd like to say or a question that they might have.
My name is Shelby Spivey. I'm pretty sure all of you know me. I'm normally here at every board meeting. There's a reason I come to every board meeting, and it's for issues like this. And I never say my opinion of it, but I'm a first-year teacher, and I often spend, if not one whole day of my weekend, sometimes 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, at the school, prepping for the following week. So those Fridays that we have off, I will not be spending it at the beach. I will not be doing anything like that. I would be up at the school prepping for the next week. I am engaged, and my fiance is moving to Missouri, and even over Christmas break, instead of spending the time with him that I probably should have, I was up at the school grading papers because grades were due when we came back, and I had to get it done. This isn't, we don't have the extra time in the day to get these things done. It's impossible. So I just want to speak that I am one that would be up there on a Friday, and I know that I'm not the only one who's had to deal with this. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, board members.
As principal of the high school, I had yet to make a formal argument for the position of not being in favor of the 4-day week. So I'm going to use this time to go ahead and do that. There's been some very passionate expressions of feelings for the 4-day week. I can certainly understand that. I would certainly want our teachers to be rewarded in any way that they could and to support our faculty and staff. But my main goal is the education of the students in Devine High School. And so I want to speak to that simply by, first of all, relating a more recent article. It was published on October 17, 2024 in EdWeek. Let me just read you some of the things. A new study adds to a small but growing body of research that suggests the truncated schedule might not have the desired staffing outcomes, because I know that retention and recruitment has been an argument that has been made for 4-day. The new research from academics at the University of California, Irvine, and the University of Missouri found that teacher turnover actually increased in both the short and long terms after Oregon districts adopted the 4-day week. Now, I understand we're not Oregon, we're Texas, but the study examined the effects of 4-day weeks in the state between 2007 and 2023. That's 16 years of research where they say that, again, turnover actually increased in both the short and long terms of those districts. The fact that teacher turnover increased was surprising, said Aaron Ainsworth, one of the working paper's authors and a graduate student in education policy and social context at UC Irvine. But it seems to suggest that if your primary objective is to do this for teacher retention, over the long term in particular, it is probably not the best reason to do it. Now, if you're looking for some local data, I've been here since May of 2022. We've had 24 staff turnover. I have lost no staff to a 4-day week. One staff has gone, another has gone because they retired and they were hired into the town. But I have not lost anybody because they have chosen to go to a 4-day week. The 2 math teachers that I could not get, one wanted to continue being an insurance agent because she made more money that way, and the other, they were from Honda, so they went back to Honda even though they committed to us first. But it was not for the 4-day week. Early on, districts cited budgetary motives for the switch to a 4-day week, but some districts that have adopted this schedule have reported negligible savings. One study that examined the impact of the 4-day week on a large district near Denver found that the change had a negative effect on teacher retention, student achievement, and home values within its boundaries. Studies have also found mixed results with regard to students' academic achievement. A study published in February by Missouri State Education Department found no significant difference in academic achievement regardless of the length of the school week. A RAND study in 2023, meanwhile, found small decreases in the growth of student achievement in districts with only 4-day weeks. The one thing that's going to be most difficult for us here in Devine is our reading and writing schools, which have been on the decline. And that is the one area that is affected both in big districts and rural districts, is reading. So when you consider that that's one of our struggles at the high school, that would be very impactful. Now, the reason that I would ask that you give credence to what I say is that we recently got our interim scores for the fall. 34% of our freshman class are meeting or mastering in Algebra 1. That is an increase over the last 2 years, including year over year from last year. 56% of our students are meeting and mastering in biology. That too is an increase. It'll be in the board notes tomorrow. I can't remember all the numbers. But it is an increase over the last 2 years. Our students are at 62% mastering and meeting in reading. But you have to be cautiously optimistic about the ELA because it doesn't test short answer or the written essay. But 62% is still an increase over the last 2 years. So in all the core subjects, we've continued to increase. So I ask that you trust and you give credence to what I'm telling you about the impact of the 4-day week. Kind of removing the emotion from the topic and the situation and simply looking at the research that is out there and what the research has put forth. You can find this article in Ed Week. It was published October 17, 2024. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Does anybody have any questions to direct to the board? Dr. Branjean, there's been mention about the cost savings. Have you done any research on that?
It's negligible. The only thing that we could really figure would be if you had any fuel savings for bus routes. We got like 720 miles a day. Then I divided that up by like 6 miles a gallon is what the bus average is. And so it would be less than $400 a week. I mean, obviously, the heat and air we're going to keep stable, but you know, it's not something that your lights are on. We got LED lights in nearly every fixture now. That some of the particular places, I know the last district that I was at, we noticed a bus barn that we had similar LED lights at, and we couldn't even make them really load up. electric meter every month, and we kept them on all the time, so that's electrical, that's not gonna be that much. Water could be there, so.
Well, and we still would have teachers up here on Friday.
And if you had those folks working, we don't want to turn the heater off if they're here.
Will there be any employees that would lose time?
So what you have to do with, in that respect, is the hourly folks adjust their schedule and their pay to where no one loses any amount of their salary that they're currently making now. Bus drivers would go to a 4-day week, but their pay would be the same as a 5-day week. Someone asked questions about, what if we pilot this for 2 years and it wasn't successful, or we see within the first year that this isn't working out, we could revert back. But that's one of the things that we have to make sure that everybody's clear on is same job, same pay. So what you're getting paid now, if you're working 4 days, if we have to go back to this, it's gonna be that same pay and you're gonna go back to 5 days. We adjust that through board resolution. Even though, like, I agree, I know it, Renee's thinking, and I think the same thing, everybody's gonna be like, we changed my rate of pay. But that has to be, we make that a board policy going forward, and then there's no argument. I mean, there's an argument, but
That causes a lot of employee relations issues.
for sure.
You know, I'm the outgoing president for the Public Service Human Resource Administration Association for Texas. And we have that conversation often, is that you're going to have some people who are here and continue to be here if we go back, right? You're going to have some people that you look to hire on. When I am making a certain amount, I get hired on for 4 days and I'm earning a certain amount of money, and now you tell me you're going to add 1/5 more work to me, but I'm not going to get a pay increase. But I got hired with an expectation that I was working 4 days.
Sure,
It's not human nature to accept that.
sure.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for Dr. Brangine or anybody else?
We are currently on a 40-week schedule, correct?
Yes,
And we currently have 16 of those weeks, 40.
I can tell you exactly, we looked at that today.
40%.
I think it was 19.
It's like
I'll tell you-
19 out of the 40 weeks.
I'll tell you right now. On the 2023-24 calendar, we had 41 weeks in the school year. 19 weeks of those were a scheduled, adopted 4 or less day week. But then we went back and looked, and we think there were 2 weeks that we had water or snow or electrical or something. And that's not, so it would have been like 21 weeks out of 41 are a 4-day week currently.
And so we received information that showed us that attendance, there was negligible difference in student attendance, whether it was a 4-day week scheduled or a 5-day week scheduled. Were you able to look to tell us what was the teacher attendance on a 4-day week versus a 5-day week?
We were pulling that up. Let me see. Oh. Can you explain it? I'm trying to read this a different way without putting you on the spot. Sorry. She did not know this was happening.
There were 3 Mondays in the spring that were staff development. And on those 3 days, it was an average absentee, except for the February one, which was, average is about 30 employees absent per day. That was the average the first 2, but in the February one, it was over 40. And that was just for the day that was off, that people used leave to not come in for whatever reason.
I think we got the question backwards.
Yeah.
So what we were trying to figure out is, like, in a 4-day week, was our employee absentee rate like 20%? Or if we had a 5-day week, was our employee absentee rate like 30%?
As a percentage of the days that they were scheduled to work.
Right, because what we had this conversation today about, Lavernia posted in a newspaper article, thanks Ms. Gutierrez for that. The only thing that we could say for sure, they said they saved $26,000 in substitutes, and I'm just gonna pick some random time. Say the first day of school till November 1st. I don't even know if that's the right time, say it was 3 weeks, anyway. They would have had 1,400 employee absences, say from first day of school to November 1st. But then in the 4-day week, from first day of school to November 1st, there were 822 employee absences. But is that like a batting average? You went to the plate less times, so we didn't really make any
As a percentage of.
concept. Yeah, I didn't break those down in that way yet, because you could add more absences, but it was more potential days that you could have been absent. To where if you had 800 employee absences, but it was based on a 4-day week, so then there was only, like I say, if you were figuring out a batting average, they went to the plate less times, but could have got the same number of hits, you know.
The weeks were pretty average.
Okay,
It
and that's what I
wasn't
thought.
a significant decrease or increase, they were pretty average.
Cool. Sorry, I didn't ask the right, we were trying to text it earlier.
But staff would not have the same amount of 4-day weeks, correct? There's a lot
No,
more.
so
in-service or
there's
work days.
several options that we can look at, and that helps in, right now, teachers have a 187-day work schedule on their contract, but contracts read 10 months. So if it was 10 months could mean 10 months. Being a district of innovation, we could move away from the 187 days that TEA stipulates, so that's not a situation. Some of the calendars, some options, put one Friday a month where teachers actually come in and have a mandatory work day. Bandera and I believe Pearsall, I'm getting them confused in my head. But the first month of the school year, the first month of August, they came every Friday. The teachers came every Friday. That complicates your at-will hourly people's paycheck a little bit. We would have to get creative on that, but I think it's something that we've already worked through. You know, there has been questions as to whether enough you guys got enough data, if we supplied enough data, DEIC looked up enough data. From now to the end of school, I bet we could go pull another piece of data every single day. The pieces that we have found out when it comes to you talking about people losing money or not making the same amount of money, they would actually make more that week because we run into their work week now goes from a 40-hour work week to like a 36-hour work week, and then on Friday afternoon they would hit 40 hours, so they would make 4 extra hours of pay, and then we would probably get into an overtime situation after that. Does that make sense? But we also talked, there was a discussion at the admin meeting today where you can go in and, just like somebody mentioned before, when other jobs work a swing shift, we just stagger their shifts where we bring some in at 7:30 and let them go at 3, and then bring some in at 8:30 and let them go at 4. That would really be the plan instead of trying to rearrange. They can put job codes to where they get paid a different rate for those 5 days, and then Shannon has already said that she probably would quit if I made her do that. She wouldn't need to go to a 3-day work week.
What about the people that are coming in earlier, they have a longer contract?
Depending on where we start. But one of the things that, aside from whether we're passing it or not, if we're asking those questions, that can be something that we go through and we figure out after you guys decide how you want to move. But if Fridays were off, some of the counselors or special ed type folks that have a 197 calendar, we could get creative and put some of those Fridays into their calendar where they don't have to come back the middle of July or even at the end of July to make those work days for them.
Okay.
Because they would be, they would say, hey, well, I don't want to work that Friday either, but we'd say, yeah, but you're not coming in at the end of July. And really you're looking at 5 to 7 days, somewhere in there. Another thing that would be affected, we talk about, somebody asked a question. I got 2 friends at other school districts that are not proponents either, and we have arguments on the phone all the time. And they were talking about absences, and when it comes to vacation days, We would recommend, right now we get 5 local days that the school district, we would recommend that number be reduced to where you get 3, but we have to give 5 state days. And right now we give 5 local days of vacation or personal leave. We would probably, and most every 4-day school district has gone that route too, where now you only give employees 3 local days.
Todd, I want to say that I appreciate Mr. Martin coming in, and I think that he made a good point that the order in which we should discuss things should be, I think administratively, you can make anything work. And it is, the first conversation has to be about, do we agree that this is in the best interest of the kids? And one of the things that I would like to share is I think it's a very, very tough time to be a teacher. You know, I know that teachers every day are thinking about and are leaving the profession. I would want to do anything for my friends and people I respect that are teachers to support them. But I also want to do what's best for kids. And when you think about that, it's a tough labor market, period. I have 13,000 employees. I had the highest vacancy rate I've ever had. I'm hiring a ton of teachers to do new jobs. I'm stealing them every second I get, and I'm not offering a 4-day week, and in some cases I'm not offering more money. And when you talk to people, national statistics show that people don't leave jobs because of pay or because of schedules. They leave it because of the work that they're doing, how the environment that they're in, how supported they feel. When you hear about the increase in behaviors within the classroom, are we adequately supporting teachers? Are we putting more paperwork on teachers that prevents them from where they have to work Saturdays and Sundays? Do they enjoy where they come? Do they feel supported by their leadership? Have we asked those questions of teachers? Because I will tell you, I believe that if you went to a 4-day week, those same issues would exist. We should pay them more. We should. We should be advocating at the state level to pay them more, and we don't do that. So have we grasped onto the one thing that we think is within our control? Because we're not attacking the things that are within our control. So I do worry about the teachers, but I worry about the students more. And I think research does exist out there. I want to make sure everybody understands that isn't unaware that in the last legislative session, I think it's District 56, District 25 out of New Braunfels, Senator Donna Campbell proposed a bill that passed the Senate and ran out of, she didn't propose it till March. So it was passed in the Senate, moved to the House, put in the Public Education Committee that would have banned local control over providing a 4-day school week. There is an expectation, I've heard from my legislative liaisons, that is going to be, if not by Donna Campbell, it's going to be put up again in this legislative session. Starts in January. We wouldn't know until May whether it was adopted, would know even further than that, whether the governor had signed it. We would have to be scrambling during the summer. But when we say there's a lack of research, I reached out to Donna Campbell's office and I said, what made you propose the bill? What research did you have? And they responded and said, here are some key points supported by research regarding the drawbacks of a 4-day school week, particularly concerning student achievement, parental workforce participation, and school financing. Her office shared that, like you said, there's minimal savings to the budget. She talked about what we heard tonight about, we have the COVID slide, and that the data is showing that there are academic losses in math and reading for kids that are in a 4-day week, and that it doesn't align with what we see in Texas in our need to educate more people for careers in STEM, right? And the careers that are 5-day-a-week careers, right? They provided me a statement that's longer than I'm going to read and said, this is what I would tell your school board. A 4-day school work week undermines student academic preparedness and readiness for the evolving Texas workforce by increasing learning loss and misaligning with industry demands for consistent schedules and strong foundational skills in STEM and critical thinking. Moving to a 4-day school week raises issues of education equity and parental workforce stability. While a 4-day school week might initially seem attractive, it carries significant long-term negative consequences for students' academic performance and future career readiness. The core mission of education and of the school board should be to foster student growth and development. You know, we talked a little bit about whether or not this is an experiment. We have 5 million students in Texas, 115,000 on a 4-day week. And Dr. Bill Starist, who's over the education department at Baylor, said this is an adult-driven decision, and the data is demonstrating a loss of learning due to it. A study out of Oregon said that a 4-day work week shaves off 1/6 of the usual gains that a 5th grader makes in math. That's equal to 5 or 6 weeks of school. And that's what they had seen. It's primarily being adopted by rural school districts because it is, how do we retain teachers? But no one has shown that it does retain teachers. And when you think about what's most important for parents, and I appreciate Ms. Jenny Hagdorn for sharing what was just data without drawing any conclusions. She shared pages of what staff had said was positive and pages of what staff had said was negative, and led us to draw our own conclusions from that. And it was very telling because when you read it, the positive were things like a 4-day work week would be a good way to have an extra day to work without taking a lot of my weekends. I could go to doctor's and dentist appointments. I could have 3-day weekends with my family. Those types of things. They were all about the employee, right? The negatives were, it's going to be difficult for working parents of special needs students. Many of our special needs students need special care, and this may not be available locally. A 4-day week would make providing required minutes for therapy, counseling, and inclusion very difficult. I worry about, will we have 504 meetings with parents if we no longer have a down day like we do now? Many of our students would experience regression in behaviors like they do after long weekends. Less day and more time in class may cause the pace and workload to increase that may cause problems for special education students who often need more time to complete work. Now, coming out of COVID, my own employees wanted more, they were remote working, they were on 4-day work weeks. That's what they wanted to see, right? And here we were faced with the largest vacancy rate we had ever experienced. And it's a tough decision to make as a leader to go, I support you guys, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make this a good place to work. But being at work less often does not benefit the community we serve. And at the end of the day, we serve the community.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Are you ready for a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve a 4-day week beginning with the 2026 school year and to ask administration to bring a proposed calendar to the February 17th, 2025 board meeting for consideration.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Chris and a second by Carl to approve the 4-day school week beginning with the 2025-26 school year and to ask administration to bring a proposed calendar to the February 17th board meeting for consideration. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Is that 3?
I have my hand up.
I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay. We have a tie vote, 3-3. I did not vote. This is not good, y'all.
You know, at the Devine Education Foundation event, Brenda Gardner, who I have a lot of respect for, who has a lot of experience in education, who argue with you about taking away her time.
I'm sorry, Renee, but don't we need to finish our vote before you were talking?
No.
Well, our vote's finished.
It's a tie. We have one more vote to
I
take.
did not.
I don't mean to be rude.
Are there any rules that say that I can't?
During the vote, I think you're not.
I don't think there's a rule, because we
Well,
don't
when you
strongly
call for-
follow
when you
Roger's
When you call
rules.
for a vote, all the talking stops and you vote.
That
You
has
should
not,
call for a vote.
that has not been my experience.
Robert Rules of Order, whenever a question's been called.
So
for.
Brenda Gardner said it's not about teaching time, it's about teaching
Point of order,
overtime.
Madam President, when you're in a vote, there's no more talking. Question's been called.
This is a difficult situation when you have a split vote on the board. And I have definite feelings both ways. Both ways.
You know, like Shannon said, if we do this, that we are gonna take this cafeteria duty on our own. It doesn't have to be someday. If you need more time,
I have to vote on it, right?
you can abstain, I think. That's any easier
If
anyway.
you abstain, it just can be brought up again.
I feel like I need to abstain since it's a split vote. That does not mean that we will, it means we have not made a decision tonight, and I apologize for that. There was a deadline for us to make this decision by tomorrow because of contract with TEA for our food service. There are some situations that are now possible where we would not have to make that decision by tomorrow. I was really hoping that it wouldn't come down to a split vote. I really was. So I apologize for being one that not being able to make a decision tonight. I just have very definite feelings both ways. So I will abstain.
Madam President, I move we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Carl and a second by Chris to adjourn. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight for your comments.
Now my